Hey, thanks for joining me. Today I want to talk to you about lecithin. Lecithin is an emulsifier, and you find it in a lot of different industries, including food production. And as an emulsifier, basically what it does is it suspends fats and liquids. So you know that old saying that oil and water don't mix? Lecithin helps them mix. It helps them stay together. It stabilizes them. So I'm going to talk you through a couple of different things that it's going to help us do as cake decorators and as bakers. One of the first things it does, I want to talk about chocolate a little bit. There are different substances in chocolates, fats and liquids, and if you've ever taken a bite of a candy bar or seen a candy bar that has like little speckles on the top of it, what that is, it's not bad. It means that the fat has bloomed, that the cocoa butter has actually risen to the top. So what's happening is the fat is starting to separate from the rest of the ingredients in the chocolate, and it's going to get a little bit of graininess to it. It's not going to have that nice velvety smooth taste that we like on our tongue. So again, the lecithin acting as an emulsifier is going to help those fats and liquids stay together in a more suspended, smooth state. So whenever I handle the lecithin, I always like to put a glove on. It's very, very thick, and it's way easier to clean up if you have a glove on before you get started with it. So I just want to show you the consistency of it. It's very, very thick, and it's almost impossible to wash off of your hands. Now that being said, it does have a little bit of a non-stick factor when you put it like in a bread dough. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. I just want to show you really quickly how thick this is, and it really acts as a great emulsifier. So one of the properties of the lecithin is its non-stick factor, and that's really going to come into play in our actual baking. My husband and I like to bake bread at home. We do a whole wheat bread. It's a little bit dense when it's on its own, but we figured out if you add lecithin to it, it really helps its volume, it helps its rise. And the reason for that is because of its non-stick factor, those air bubbles are starting to expand, and because they don't have so much friction to rub against, they're able to really expand and give you a nice volume. So keep that in mind. It works just as well with cake batter. When you're baking your actual cake, it's going to give you a little bit more volume, a little bit more sponginess to your cake. So that's a really great factor as far as lecithin in your baking. Not only is it going to give you a better rise in your baking, but it's also going to help your product stay fresher longer because of the moisture retention quality it has. One of the other things that it does, this is one of my favorite little tricks, is when I'm using it in icings and fillings. First of all, it gives you a lot smoother, more consistent quality to your product. It gives it a little bit of shine too. So we're going to take a close look at some of these. I want to point out the coloring factor. The lecithin really does a phenomenal job if you're using an American buttercream, a Swiss meringue buttercream, a rolled fondant, anything that you're coloring. It's really going to help boost that color. One of the biggest problems we run across as cake decorators, if we're trying to get like a nice deep blue or a purple, it fades so quickly. That color does not stay true. So I just have a couple of examples. Everything in the front does not have lecithin in it. The same product in the back, and everything's measured exactly the same, the amount of color, the amount of product that it was put into, so that we'll have a good sample of what it's actually doing. For example, here on the purples, we have the exact same color. We used a crystal color grape, which is a powder color. The lecithin really helps the vibrancy on that. It helps that purple really boost, and it also helps it stay truer longer. I'm actually this is another color. I'm actually gonna pop this out, and I want you to look at how grainy this is. This is one of the things I was talking about earlier with the chocolate, how it helped it stay stable, how it helps it stay emulsified, and those fat grains really stay in tune with all the other ingredients. And the same thing works whenever you're working with color. If it's a gel paste or even if it's a powder color, it's not suspended in the fondant as long. And that's why we get a little bit of a grainy look. You can even see it in a close-up when we used a gel color like in this charcoal color, that the grains are really popping out. It never just really fully mixes. So that's one of my favorite things to do, is add the lecithin to any kind of icing, whether it be a buttercream or a fondant, and you're really going to get a lot more pliability, a lot more shine, and a really deep color. I'd like to talk about the lecithin in another product as far as coloring goes. It has a different character than the icings do, and that's chocolate. Going back to chocolate, I don't know if you've ever tried to use a gel or a liquid color in chocolate, but it just doesn't work. It seizes up, it almost becomes a solid ball, and you lose that nice viscosity or the pour of a melted chocolate. The reason people love to color chocolate can be anything from coloring candy molds to coating a truffle to making a beautiful sculpture. Whatever reason you have for coloring chocolate, you need to use the lecithin. You can use any of your regular food colorings, be it a liquid or a gel. We kind of prefer the gel. You can also use a powder color. If you did use those without the lecithin, again, you're going to have that seizing. With the powder, you might also have a little bit of graininess, and that's why you want to use the lecithin. What it does is it goes back to acting as an emulsifier, so it will grab that item and help it mix with that oil-based product without separating, and you're going to get a much truer color, a nice, vibrant, deep color of whatever chocolate that you need without it seizing up. You're still going to have that nice viscosity of that chocolate. All of these same points really hold true when you're talking about flavoring as well. If you're going to flavor a buttercream, a fondant, a chocolate, or even a batter, the lecithin helps all of those as well. Sometimes if you add an extract to a cake batter and you bake it, a lot of that flavor can just evaporate out. If you add the lecithin into that flavor and then into the cake batter, it's more likely to adhere to those properties inside the cake and the flavor will stay truer. Same thing with chocolate. If you're adding color or flavor, if you add it in, that liquid is going to kind of help that chocolate seize up, and that's not really what you want. You want a nice, pourable liquid chocolate. So if you want to flavor your chocolate, adding that lecithin into the flavoring before you add it into the chocolate is really going to help that viscosity, that same consistency stay true. Same thing with any of the icings. If you're adding a flavoring, and it's really going to help bind it and help stay truer to what it is, and it helps boost it up a little bit, so you might not need quite as much. So those are just a few touch points on the use of lecithin in your baking and in your cake decorating. I know when you add this to your baked goods and your icings and your colors and flavors, you're really going to love the quality of the product and the end result. So give it a try. I hope you have fun with it.